Welcome back. Today we're going to replace the track rod ends and ball joints on a 2007 NISSAN QASHQAI 1.6 litre petrol. Stay with me. To start with, I'm applying a decent amount of WD-40 to all the nuts and bolts that we need to remove. Next, I'm loosening off the nut that holds the track rod end to the wheel hub using a 14mm spanner. I'm also using a T30 Torx bit to hold the bolt in place so it doesn't spin around with the nut when I'm loosening it off. Once I've got it nice and loose, I can switch the 14mm socket to speed things up significantly. Next step is to loosen off the counter-locking nut on the inner side of the track rod end. I'm doing this using an adjustable wrench and a 19mm spanner. Once everything is nice and loose, I can give the track rod end a tap with the hammer in the face. All there's left to do now is to unscrew it from the track rod. I'm removing the two bolts that support the wheel hub to the strut to make it easier to remove the ball joint from the wheel hub, if that makes sense. By removing these two bolts will allow me to move the wheel hub up and down, left and right, and the only limiting factor will be the drive shaft. We need to be careful to not separate the TV joints in the drive shaft when moving the wheel hub around. Next, I'm removing the bolt that secures the lower control arm ball joint. Before I remove the locking nut, I'm giving it a couple of taps with the thumb detector to free it loose. Once the bolt is loose, I can remove the nut and tap out the bolt using a drift punch. I'm using a pry bar to separate the ball joint from the wheel hub. I'm trying to find a good position for the pry bar to get the most amount of leverage. Using a drift punch again, I'm removing the bolts that support the wheel hub to the strut, which I have loosened previously, allowing me to fully separate the ball joint from the wheel hub. After I've separated the ball joint from the wheel hub, I'm reinstalling one of the lower strut bolts in order to support the wheel hub so I don't put the drive shaft under unnecessary strain. Next, I'm removing the circlip that secures the ball joint. I couldn't find my circlip plier set, so I'm using a pair of makeshift circlip pliers, which I've made out of a pair of needle nose pliers. As you can see, it's not perfect, but if you're in a pickle and you don't have a pair of circlip pliers, then it definitely works better than nothing at all. That's the circlip that secures the ball joint to the control arm. This can go into the fuck it bucket, as the new ball joint comes with a new circlip as well. The ball joint on this car is a press fit, and since I don't have a ball joint extractor, I will be removing the ball joint using a prehistoric method. What I mean by that is I'm placing a wooden log under the control arm to support it, and using a hammer I will try and beat the living shit out of the ball joint with a hammer until it comes out. This doesn't seem to do the trick, probably because it's well rusted in there. What I'm thinking now is to heat up the ball joint housing and then rapidly cool it down to break away the rust and hopefully make it easier to extract. The whole idea behind heating it up and rapidly cooling it down is that steel and rust expand and contract at a different rate, which in effect causes them to somewhat break the mechanical bond between each other, if that makes any sense. It's probably a good idea to remove the rubber boot off the ball joint before applying the fire, for obvious reasons really. Now, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, what we are going to witness next is something I'm not very proud of. What happens next is the product of a brief moment of lack of judgment and bad decision making. As I've mentioned before, after heating up the ball joint housing, I need to rapidly cool it down. Well, guess what? I had no water at hand to do just that, so I thought, why not spray some W40 on it? As we all witnessed, it's a bad fucking idea. WD-40 is highly flammable, so for the sweet love of Jesus, don't do this. After all that being said, let's do it the right way. After everything has cooled down, I'm applying some WD-40 again to hopefully penetrate the joint. All there is left to do is to hammer away and extract the flipping ball joint. And of course the fucking battery has died in the fucking camera!
A few moments later.
Here's the new circlip, which I am going to install using the same dodgy circlip pliers I've made. There is some footage missing because of the camera battery shitting the bed, but you haven't missed much. I kept on hammering on the ball joint until it came out, and then I simply pressed in the new ball joint, which you can already see here. Using a flat blade screwdriver, I'm making sure that the circlip is seated in its groove properly. Next step is to install the ball joint into the wheel hub. And then the ball joint nut and bolt. And then tighten all the nuts and bolts. Next, I'm threading on the track rod end onto the track rod, then inserting the ball joint into the wheel hub. And lastly, I'm tightening the track rod end to the track rod via the locking nut. I want to mention that after replacing the track rod end, it is paramount that you take the car to a garage and have a wheel alignment done. Otherwise you might end up with uneven tire wear, or even worse, ending up with the car veering off to one side, which can be dangerous. That's it for today. I hope you find this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, then give it a thumbs down and let me know in the comments below why. I will do my best to reply to all your comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on future videos. Take care, and I'll see you in a bit. Lander out.